Hi, it's Therese and I'm here for Altenew, and I have a take two with Therese today, and I decided to create a couple of cards using the Weekend Doodles stamp set. This is a really cool set. I'm going to be using this large flower image here and the coordinating die. What I thought I'd like to do today was actually try and recreate a card that I made. I don't know, does that make sense? Anyway, I'm calling it paper piecing versus watercolor. How's that? So I'm going to start with the paper piecing. I've stamped out my image and I'm using this awesome, I'll say it again, it's awesome, Obsidian black ink. It's a pigment ink from Altenew and I'm using it on everything now. I'm loving it. But I've got this Summer Garden paper pack, and what I thought I'd do, I haven't paper pieced in an age, and I was just thinking about it the other day and I thought it'd be really fun to paper piece an image and then try and recreate the image with a colour. And originally I was going to do like maybe some artist marker colouring, but when I chose the papers out of the pack here, I thought it looked more watercolory, so that's what made it a watercolour challenge for me. See, look, that ink's already dry. It took no time at all. What I'm doing here is, because I'm using the same piece of paper on both sides to stamp out my image, I am actually just cutting roughly around the edges of the image so I don't accidentally re-stamp on the other side and then I'd have to start again. So I'm making sure that I've got each portion of the image stamped in one way or another on some green. I'm kind of basically using green for leaves. I'm using the pink and the blues for the flowers, and then I'm going to fussy cut. And yes, this is me fussy cutting in real time. So I'm not going to show you all this, otherwise it'd be a very long video. Because I did actually fussy cut all the leaves and flowers. So basically I cut right up to the edge of the black line, and I didn't bother using a marker around the edges for where the cutting was, because I knew I was going to be adhering it onto the stamped piece that I've just die cut. And the black lines, if I don't adhere it down correctly, the black lines are going to show through from underneath. But if you're really fussy, that is something that you can do. I'm using a liquid glue because that just gives me, I'm trying to adhere it in the wrong spot there, did you see? I'm using a liquid glue because that just gives me a little bit of wriggle time to make sure that I've got the lines up to the edge of the other lines that I'm adhering it on. And if you have got any images that are in front of another, you need to make sure that you stick the back image down first, otherwise it's not going to look right. This paper pack has a really pretty combo of colours. It's sort of got the lagoon greens, but it's also got the dark evergreen and the pinks. It's really pretty. And the blues, and that's what I'm doing here. I've actually cut a piece of this design paper down and to fit the front of my card, and I've just splattered some Dusk, it's metallic shimmer ink spray, and also some black ink, and I will set that aside to dry. I'm stamping out a sentiment with the Obsidian, and it's from the Flower Vine stamp set, and I really like that these are really small sentiments, so it's going to go with my big sentiment that I'm going to put on this card. I'm using some tape runner, and then I'm just going to adhere this. It's going to be a landscape side fold card, so I'm just adhering my panel that I've created to the front of the card. And I've got the Mega Friend die, and I've die cut that with some jet black cardstock, and I'm kind of fitting that across the bottom of the card, and I know it doesn't fit quite right, but I will actually flip that over and cut the rest of the F away, because it won't work otherwise. And I am adding the tittle to the eye. So I've popped up my little die cut paper piece, I was going to say flourish twig, blossom. I don't know. It's not a bouquet, is it? And added my sentiment with some foam dots as well. Now, I did actually come in and re-stamp the sentiment on a piece of the design paper on the white portion of this particular green and white striped design paper because I wanted my whites to match, and that other one looked a little bit, so you may notice it's slightly different in the photos if you're very on tune and you are looking for stuff like that. Right, so now we're going to repeat this and let's see how we go. I've got the Altenew, it's the watercolor pan set. It's a 36 pan set, and I've actually diluted down the evergreen paint a lot. And I am actually working on 110-pound Nina cardstock. I'm not using watercolor cardstock because I didn't want that sort of a yellowy look, and I thought I'd just see how it goes. And after I've done my stripes, I will set this aside to dry. I did actually have the other stripes above me there, so I got the correct angle. I'm not sure if you noticed that from the design paper. I've stamped out the, let's call it a flourish. No, because that's usually just flourishes, isn't it? Twig. I've stamped out the floral twig again. And this time I did actually stamp it on some Bristol Smooth. And this ink worked very nicely on this paper, I might add. And I'm just using mostly a wet on wet technique. I've grabbed similar colours to the design paper from the water pans palette, the watercolour palette, and I do actually either wait for these to dry in between layers or hit it lightly with my heat tool. It's been a devastating day for me here today. My Wagner heat tool stopped working. I don't know what I'm going to do. What is a paper craft to do without their heat tool? And it's not, you can't really get it, and I haven't been able to find it in Australia, so I have to go searching and see what I can find. I could have cried. Anyway, back to painting. There's worse things that could happen in this world. Not that I can think of any right now, but I'm sure there's something worse than that. I don't actually know which colours I chose, mostly the pinks and a couple of the blues, many of the greens, but I just really looked at what colours matched. Alright, so this is my warped piece of paper. I'm just going to show you a little trick here. I have folded it between a piece of copy paper, and now I'm going to run it through. You can actually use any die cutting machine and without a die, and look at that, it flattens it right out. I did actually add an extra sheet of paper, so an extra shim, and run it through one more time. This time I'm going for a portrait style card, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment this time. So it's the Mega Greetings stamp set, and I've grabbed the word hello, and yes, I'm stamping it with the Obsidian. Yet again, like I said, I can't get enough. I did use my big Misty because I wanted it to be off the edge of the card, and I couldn't quite fit it into my mini Misty for this, so that's where those corners come in really handy, and lots of magnets. You might have noticed, I didn't want this thing to shift at all. And look how beautifully, that's just the first stamp. Look how beautifully that's stamped. So I did actually come in one more time on those L's because they weren't perfect. But when you stamp over the ink sprays, you're never going to get that perfect kind of look. I've adhered that panel to the front of a top fold card, popped up my floral sprig. What did I decide it was called? Floral twig. Added another sentiment from the same little set and some clear sparkling sequins. All the supplies will be listed at the blog and the links will be below. Thanks so much for joining me here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.